No, no, I don't want to work on it. No, no, don't make me. All right, guys. Good morning. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. We're making it work. I'm Jimmy if you're new here. It's time to let the Florida sunshine in. GMC transmission job I finished up yesterday on all the different transfer case services. Just got to double check the fluid levels. Thing drives great. We got like 4 vehicles out in the parking lot. One of them's a AAA tow truck. Maybe he's here about his other AAA tow truck that's been out in the grass for a week and a half. That's not really funny. We got quite a few things going on today. Should be an interesting day. We got several different kinds of vehicles, several different kinds of repairs to do. Should be interesting. Stay tuned. First ticket today. Check AC. 2014 Jeep Compass. A true classic in every sense of the word. 161,325 miles. My goodness gracious. Still running. That's impressive. Katie got her Jeep back from the dealer today. They put the cylinder head on it. I don't want to disparage the mechanic that worked on it, but when you put a cylinder head on a car, probably want to road test it, because she didn't get 3 miles and the check engine light came on. She made it home. Her husband works at Kia, which is a dealership owned by the same company where she had the Jeep fixed. So they found they had left the fuel pressure sensor disconnected, broke like 6 or 8 plastic clips, a couple of brackets. They broke this switch for the hood latch. Has a little button on it to let you know the hood's open or closed. That's broken. So I know they kind of work those guys over the coals at most of the dealerships. I worked at a dealership during my career, and most jobs underpay quite a bit, so you find yourself really rushing. Although I don't think I broke that much stuff on one job and didn't road test it when I was done, at least with major engine repair. Anyway, she's not going back there. So we're gonna fix what we can fix and top off her fluids. They never put power steering fluid in the power steering pump. Just really bad. I mean, that's what gives us a bad reputation. So when you don't care, just do something else. What do you want to be a mechanic because you can make good money, but you don't care, and it's all going to come back around and haunt you and follow you everywhere you go. You gotta have some kind of conscience, no matter what your job is. But we're here for an AC repair on a different Jeep. So, oh, look how dark I got. Get this hood open, take a look. There is no hood support that I can find. I think they're usually in here, and it goes across somewhere over here. It's all gone. Look at the rust.
I'll go look at it. Probably damn ignition stuff.
Interesting. But he's not asking about the HID conversion ballasts, whatever LED. He's asking about the AC. So my job is to find the fitting. Oh, there they are. Okay. Grab the AC machine. I don't think it's working real good right now, to tell you the truth. But we'll see. Uh-oh. There's no freon in that thing. That is a shame. Let's see if we can rectify it. I'm going to put some freon in it and see if I can figure out where it's coming out at. AC's on. Clutch hub's turning. That doesn't mean... It could be a variable displacement, so I'll turn it off and see if the clutch hub stops turning. But there's no pressure differential from high to low, which either means it's a variable displacement that's not currently working, or it's not on, and it looks like it. Let's see what the when we turn it off, if it changes. Well, I don't know if that comes up on camera. I'll have to crop that way down there. But I don't see the bolt turning in the center of the compressor with the switch off. Let's see if that changes. Nope, it's the same. So the compressor shaft's not being turned by the clutch. Let me get my scanner just to see if it has variable displacement and what the compressor would be running at percentage-wise, if it is. Alright, let's get this thing on AC and see where we're at. HVAC, enter. Read fault codes. No DTCs. Data stream. Now I'm gonna... ambulance and fire truck probably. AC clutch request. AC switch, AC clutch engaged, refrigerant pressure, evap temperature. I'm just picking out some important data PIDs. Man, there's way too many fire trucks going by here every day. The traffic's crazy and there's a ton of car accidents. Let me bring up these data PIDs and we'll see where we're at. Uh-oh, that's breaking off. That's my screensaver tab. Don't need it. I keep the screensaver on my scanners as long as I can till it's all scratched up and nasty, then I'll peel it off and I'll have a new screen, right? AC request on, AC switch on, AC clutch engaged, true. So this thing's either going to have a broken wire or a bad compressor or compressor clutch. Some of you can get the clutch separately, some of them you can't. But you usually have to remove the compressor just to change the clutch. So they tend to sell a whole compressor. But what I'm going to do now is make sure the connections are good, make sure I got power and ground down at the compressor clutch. But I can see the clutch looks like it's turning and the shaft in the middle is not, like the clutch is broken. Sometimes what happens is the compressor locks up and then the clutch breaks. So then it'll turn the clutch on, but nothing happens. So that's what it looks like. So a couple more quick tests under the hood. We'll see where we go from here. I'm going to get this thing in the air. You got to remember too, these Chryslers are really bad for IPDMs or whatever you want to call this thing, BCM, fuse panel, whatever. But a lot of times there's relays internal in here that you can't service. When you pull this out, there's like no relays in it. All the relays are built into this unit. And sometimes they won't send power out to the compressor because of bad relay inside the fuse box. So definitely on Chryslers especially, you always want to, but especially these things, you got to make sure there's power getting to it. Which, when I lift it up, I'll also be able to see what kind of clutch it has on it and see if I can turn the compressors mechanically as well. There's a reason the Freon was out of it. I'm assuming it locked up and vented the Freon or vice versa. But we'll see, we got to lift it up. Now, I know the compressor turns. That's a good sign. There's my power and ground. I'll have to back probe into that, see if it's getting power at least, because I'm concerned that fuse panel could be the problem. So let's do that. I got 12 volts and I got a good ground. Oddly enough, the red wire's ground and the black wire's power. Compressor's not working. It's got a bad compressor. Let's go tell them up front. I'm gonna recommend a belt and a tensioner too, because the tensioner is starting to come apart. You can see the belt's riding crooked to the tensioner. So, let's write them an estimate. They'll look familiar. All right. The Kia, the fuel pump and gas tank debacle. They said it died on them going down the road and wouldn't restart. I had it towed in. I got in it, started hooking up the scanner and trying to look at fuel pressure. Maybe I'm thinking defective fuel pump, something like that. So I brought up my data PIDs, fuel level, fuel pressure desired and actual. For a second it cranked and it had engine RPM and cam synchronization and it showed fuel pressure. But it didn't start, and after about 6-7 seconds of cranking, it started. So now I got to see if I can get it to die again. A lot of defective parts lately, so it's possible that fuel pump we put in is bad. They did get the cheapest one they could possibly find, because they said the good one was $700. They found one for like $318. I don't think they even charged the customer for it, to tell you the truth, but I'm not sure. But it's possible the cheap parts are going to bite us. Even good ones I've had defective lately. So now we're going to see if we can get old Kia here to act up again. 129,880 miles on this 2012 Kia Sorento. If you guys aren't familiar with it, I've worked on it twice now. I had a rusty gas tank that was failing the evap test and smoking around the sending unit. And I recommended the tank and the sending unit, and they got me the tank only and said the sending unit was expensive. So then a week later, when it came back with the evap code again, they got me the sending unit. So now you're all caught up. Now it apparently it died on them and that didn't restart, but it started for me after a few seconds of cranking. We'll see if we can get something to happen with it. Fuel pressure looked great, so maybe it's something new. Maybe there's a crank sensor problem going on, although when it was cranking and not starting for a few seconds, it showed engine RPM. Very strange. Let's see what happens to this one. We'll come back. Before I go on to something else, I brought up the graph I put the fuel pressure desired and fuel pressure actual on the screen. You can see down here fuel pressure and fuel pressure set point. So they should mirror each other. If the fuel pressure starts to deviate and that blue line drops off while the orange line stays up, then something going on with fuel delivery, which would be the fuel pump. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to let it run a little while, see what happens. It's got 1/3 of a tank of gas roughly, so we'll be able to run it for a little bit and see. Whoop! Something happened. You see that blue line? It just shut off. So now let's go. Let's crank it, see what happens. Yeah, it's got a bad fuel pump. This orange line, it's asking for fuel pressure, and the blue line, it's not getting it. I'll crank it again. So now I get to go up front, tell them to get me another fuel pump, and pull the seat out for a 3rd time. Keep rowing. For my next trick, I'm gonna fix a broken Honda. Oh my goodness gracious. What the heck happened here? 2013 Honda Fit. Customer states my check engine light is on. I gotta find the fitting. Oh, there it is. The Honda likes to tuck them over on the side. Tricky little guys. Let's get the TOPDON talking and not touch anything and see what we can find. Yeah. Love rating? I'm gonna go 2. I'm gonna go 2 on this one. If I'm doing halves, 1.5. Let me 46,996 miles on this poor thing. Low miles and low love. While I'm contemplating my existence, we'll get this thing to light up and see what we're dealing with. All right, we're on our way now. Supposedly the customer's already pulled codes and found out that there's a transmission related code, and he felt a thump. I didn't see a check engine light on with the engine running though, so we're gonna see what kind of codes we got. Let this thing do its topology dance. And then, oh, AT2. Okay, let me get my notepad. That was a little bit of a waste of time. I enjoyed my topology, as you guys might know, but I mean, there's an awful lot of modules it doesn't have that it wasted time trying to look at. It only has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 modules. But I tried to look for about 45 of them, so I waited a few minutes. That's all right. We'll send a report to the front desk, get some of this information in there, and we'll take a look at them training codes and see where we go from there. Since Honda's nice enough to give us a dipstick, might as well check the fluid level and condition. Oh, it's low. It's supposed to be up here. It's all the way down here. Alright, that makes things a little easier. I feel a little better about recommending a transmission service. We'll go from there. Definitely got low fluid. Probably what I should do as well is pull it on the alignment rack. Oh, there's a vehicle on there for an AC check. Pull on the alignment rack and look for leaks, but from the top and laying underneath it looks dry, like there's no leaks. May have been serviced and not filled correctly. Everything's nice and dry. Fluid's definitely a little low. Customer said, go ahead and service the transmission. We'll see how that works. That's the solenoid B that's giving us trouble. So I'm going to pop that off there and take a look at the connector, make sure there's no corrosion or anything weird or damage in it. And then we'll pull this drain plug out and fill it from the dipstick tube. Should be pretty straightforward. So let's do that. Looks like a 3/8 ratchet fits right in there. I got my long gear wrench 120 XP out. And I put a rag in the oil drain. I'll drain it and we'll screen it through those rags. The rags are real porous, so it'll leak through, and if it does go over, there's holes around the side. We'll catch any metal in case there is going to be any in the oil. If the oil looks good, I'm just going to rock it, see how it goes, see if the codes come back. The phone's ringing. Stop it. I got plans. Fluid doesn't look too bad. If the odometer's right, 47,000 miles, it shouldn't be, right? But we'll see what the rags look like after it settles down. A little bit of material on the drain plug magnet, but not a ton. Doesn't look anything unusual. No metal sparklies in the pan. So I'm going to clean this drain plug up, get it back in there, top the fluid up, take it for another drive, see how it goes. I don't think Monk could even figure out we were in there. Alright, that's 3 quarts. We'll start this thing up, run it a second, and check it. 3 quarts is perfect. I'll take it for a drive. I won't bore you guys with that. And I'm sure it won't set codes. It didn't before. Now it's got new fluid. Got to be better, right? We'll see what's next. For my next trick, I'm going to look at this Chevrolet Trax. Losing coolant. Customer said they put coolant in it, only went 12 miles and lost coolant again. 56,900 miles on this monstrosity. That's about the life expectancy for one of these GM SUVs. That's about the life expectancy. 56,000 miles, all you can hope for. So I'm gonna pull this thing over here on the rack. I got that Kia needing a fuel pump in my bay. I don't want to try to move it out in the parking lot, then it won't start. Next time I won't be able to get it in as easy. So we'll just look at this one outside here in the back. It's nice out here today anyway. It's not that warm, so it's perfect. Oh, change oil warnings on. They didn't ask about that, so I'm to recommend an oil change too. No, it says it's not due to 59,300 on the sticker, so someone didn't reset the oil change reminder. Tisk tisk. Let's get under the hood, see what's leaking. Stop horsing around, Jimmy. Oh, that's terrible. The hose is broken. What happened? I'm just gonna put a little water in here and see if I can watch it trickle out before I even try to pressurize it. If it's that bad, it's probably gonna be running out somewhere. I don't see anything broken looking around though. But I gotta figure out how to fix the garden hose first. That was easy. Of course, it sticks. You gotta really be careful. Push it off when you need it off. Just turn that little valve over there. Who knew? Like magic. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, we're having a better week this week again, so I did real good last week, almost doubled the week before. So now I'm gonna find this coolant leak, and I'll be able to pay my bills, and this customer will be able to drive their car. Everybody wins, right? I might have to pressurize it because I'm not seeing anything just by filling it. They said they're losing their coolant really fast. Hope it's not burning it. It went down a little bit, so I'll just keep filling it till it stops going down, and it's probably going to come out somewhere. Worst case scenario, I'll get my pressure tester and we'll do that. We'll come back in a second. I got the old ATD kit out. I got this off my gear wrench guy years ago. It's probably about 3 years ago now, I guess. I was using a little snap-on one that just had this tool and like 3 radiator cap adapters. And I asked the Snap-on guy about the accessory kit, and it was like $600. So I got this from my gear wrench guy for like $189, I think it was $179. And there are similar versions of it. I'm trying to remember what brand. Like on Amazon, you can get some of these kits are like $100. You got to be careful though. So the really cheap ones, some of the adapters aren't machined correctly and stuff. Joe bought one, and some of his adapters didn't work. But Dale hooked them up actually and got a couple of them warranted because it's the same manufacturer as ATD apparently. ATD, I'm not sure if they're a rebrander or if they're the one that actually makes it, but in any event, we're going to put some pressure on this thing. I took the manual and I wrote the brands they fit to get an idea. There's several different versions for each brand, like you see Audi. But at least with them labeled, I can cut down on searching through every one of them. This is one of the most common GM ones, smaller cars. So we'll try it first. Look at that thing. Like a glove. Just a quick connect and then pump it a few times or pressurize the system. If it's a slow leak, it'll build up pressure. If it's a big leak, it won't. And you can actually watch it drop. as well as look underneath to see an idea of where the fluid might be coming out at, and I don't see it yet. That's interesting. Sometimes if the leak's high up in the system, you won't see it leak at all. It'll just push air out somewhere, like a cracked radiator, that kind of thing. Radiator tanks look dry. Interesting, interesting. I wonder if this thing could be low on coolant because it's burning it. We'll know real quick if that's the case. When I start it up, it'll probably run rough. I'm going to let this sit under pressure for a while, see if I can spot something visibly, and if I can't, I'll start it up to see how it runs. Well, it's holding pressure pretty good. That's a bad sign. Not that it's leaking, or even at the head gasket's bad, but we might be going down the wrong path from bad information. Because the customer says, I have a coolant leak, I keep having to add coolant, but it's also possible the fan's not running and it's pushing the coolant out. So I'm going to start it up. If it runs good when I start it up, I'm going to start looking towards the fans. Yeah, no misfires or anything. It's running great. So it's not like a head gasket type of problem. Now we'll change our plans. I'll grab the scanner and we'll put it in bi-directional test mode, try to run those fans. Let's get this thing in bi-directional mode, try run them fans. I think I gave this thing a lev rating, you know. And while the scanner's hooking up here, this is actually a pretty clean vehicle, cleaner than average. I'm going to give this a 7. I mean, if it wasn't for the mask, I'd probably give it an 8 because it's as clean as my truck is. But I don't have a mask laying around on my seat and stuff, especially an old dirty one. See if that scanner's done yet. Well, first things first, we got codes. P00B7, engine coolant flow insufficient. I will send this to Katie. Then I'll go to bi-directional and run the fans. Alright, actuation tests. Cooling fan. Cooling fan relay 1. On. It says on. Uh-oh. Nothing's happening. That's no good. Alright. Let's try on the second speed. Go back here to cooling fan relays 2 and 3. Sometimes the motors have multiple phases, sometimes there's different relays that power them up, so I just try a couple of them, see if there's any way for it to run the fan. On. Oh, it's doing something. That makes it confusing. Now what do? 2 and 3 work and 1 did not. I'm going to back out, see if there's another one to try. 1, 2, and 3. See if that'll work. It shouldn't, if any of the fan speeds work, it should turn the fan on some level and stop it from overheating. So that's interesting. It's max speed. Okay. No leaks. The fan seems to be working. Could have a stuck thermostat now, maybe. So I'm going to run it. I'm going to put a little bit more coolant in there and run it and see what we get. If the fan turns on, the best way to check for a thermostat is the fan will turn on when it gets hot, but it'll blow cool air. One of the hoses will be cool, one will be hot. You know that you don't have any coolant flow. In rarer cases, it's caused by a bad water pump not pushing the coolant. That's pretty rare though. It's normally a failed thermostat. So let's do that. Finish topping it up and run. All right. This thing's gonna need a thermostat. And this has that electric thermostat. Great design, by the way. So, that's where we're going with this thing. The fan's working. I do have to diagnose the fan 1 speed issue, see if it's a relay or part of the circuit and the fan's not working, but it also has a stuck thermostat and no flow. So that's what we're going to write up on this. I'm going to take a quick look at the fan first to make sure all the fuses are good and that kind of stuff, and then we'll do a thermostat if they want. So, oh, what the heck's he doing there? Park pin test. Pulling up this wiring diagram. The fuse works the second speed and first speed, and since the second speed works, only the first is out. It's either going to be a broken wire or the resistor for the cooling fan. It's got a single stage motor, uses a resistor to adjust the speed, and the resistor is on the fan assembly right there. You guys can see that, I hope. It's either going to be the resistor if it's available separately or the fan assembly to get the fan to work on the first speed. But the thermostat's the main reason it's overheating, because if the first stage doesn't work on the fan and it keeps getting hotter, drag racing is fun. If the first stage of the fan doesn't work and the engine keeps getting hotter, the computer will put it on the second stage. It wouldn't let it overheat. So that's happening because of the thermostat, and I just found that problem with the resistor. So, go up front and see where we go with this one next. Pieces of the hood are falling off. Alright, we got approval for the compressor. He doesn't want to do the tension or a belt though. And I think they sold the condenser with it instead of just a dryer. I'm not sure, but sometimes they're not serviceable. So we'll see. I don't want this hood mat bouncing on my head, so I'm going to fix it for him a little bit. Shouldn't be real hard. Might have to tape it up there a little bit or something. Probably going to want to fall out. I'll put some tape on it. I just don't want it rubbing on my head while I work. Besides, it'll mess up my beautiful hair. Can't have that. That'll work. Alright, just back from lunch. I thought I'd be doing the Jeep AC compressor, but we got another Chinese fuel pump. U.S. company in Springfield, Missouri. Made in China. I'm not sure if it's the same one. We're going to replace the defect with the same one, probably. Not up to me. Let's go ahead and time lapse this fuel pump. Third time. Well, folks, the parts supplier is vindicated. When I got the fuel sending unit out, the gas tank is empty, and it's reading 1/4 of a tank. So I went over here and disconnected this. You might remember I had an electrical problem, so I was concerned with my repair. Maybe I made a mistake. When I plugged this passenger side sending unit in, it reads 60%, and what the gauge does, it splits the difference between the two sides, and it shows 1/3 of a tank. But the tank's actually empty. If I unplug this sending unit, it goes down to 0. You can see that there. I plug it back in, it goes back to 60%. And I can take the sending unit completely out of the tank so that it's hanging down as far as it goes, 55%. And if I move it up just a little bit, 63%, I move it up some more, 77%, move it up all the way, that's all the way up, 83%. I let it back down to maximum down, 55%. And if I unplug it, 0. Which 0 is what it has if you look in the tank. It's empty. I mean, it couldn't get any more gas out of there than that. So the customer said, something happened, my car shut off going down the road, it won't restart. I assumed it was a defective fuel pump, but what it is they've probably had a fuel gauge that isn't accurate for a long time. I took this out to see maybe I caught the float on something, although the tank's pretty open inside. But I wanted to check my work before I go up front and tell them what I found. And all my electrical connections are good. Something going on in that sending unit. So it reads 1/4 of a tank when it's empty. So now I can go up front, see if they want to get that sending unit, and let them know that if we send that defective fuel pump back, it's going to test good because it was out of gas. That's my next task, go up front and stop staring at this and telling you all about it. Because I want to try to get to some of the work. I have approval for everything I looked at today. And all my parts are piled up over there by those cars. So let's go up front on this one and move along. That's a bummer. Alright. They are going to work on the sending unit and see what they want to do with that. I was kind of disappointed that, like I said, I checked all my work. I checked to make sure the float's not hung up on anything. I did my due diligence, rechecked all my connections, made sure that float wasn't hanging up. There's a giant open chamber in there, the float's not going to hang up on anything. So then I just unplugged it and saw it go to 0. So it's something in that sending unit, which it had to have been like that before. You would think the customer would have already noticed that they can't go below 1/4 tank, they'd run out of gas, but I don't know. I don't know what to think anymore. All I can do is fix the problems as they come up and keep going. Like now I'm going to go back on the Jeep and try to get this AC done today, but it's not a lot of time left in the day. We'll see. I'm not going to rush. I hate redoing work. especially 3 or 4 times. This one wasn't my fault either, so even though it wasn't a defective fuel pump like I assumed, it was out of gas and the gauge wasn't working. And that's on this, there's 2 sending units. Passenger side, we didn't replace anything, we just put their unit back in the tank. Alright, let's move on. Let's try to get something done. What do you say? Check. Got another job that we're not doing everything I recommended on, and we're doing some stuff I didn't recommend on it. So the tensioner is letting the belt ride like cattywampus. You guys know what cattywampus is, right? It's a girl, she owned a Cadillac. She's a real cool chick. Last name Wampus. Anyway, they don't want to do the tensioner, so we're going to put it back together the way it was with the original belt and tensioner, but a new compressor. And we advise them if the belt flies off, you know, your AC will stop working too, right? Yeah, that's okay. All right. I've done a bunch of these to do alternators. I've pulled them out to do alternators, so it should be pretty straightforward, and I probably shouldn't be bragging about it until I get it out of there, huh? All right, let's stop. 13. Someone's had it out of there. We took the connector off. One of the ears is already broken off the compressor, so someone's worked on this before. Probably to do an alternator. This thing's real corroded from up north. Looks like it lives on a dirt road because there's clay stuck to everything, but that's all beside the point. There's only 3 bolts holding this in. So once I get these 3 bolts out, the system's already discharged. Pop the hoses off the top and it's out. Easiest part of the job. I'm bringing you guys in close with me like you're looking straight up from the ground. Just like me, I got my head bent back, looking straight up, right? So you guys too, except you won't get a stiff neck. Unless you want to simulate the conditions and put the monitor on the ceiling while you're watching YouTube. I appreciate you guys watching, by the way. Approaching 8,000 subscribers. You guys are awesome. Trying to help mechanics out in the field so that when they're starting out, they can learn some of the basics and some of the things I've come across over the years. And also let experienced mechanics know they're not alone when they have a good day or a bad day or whatever day they're having. That's what my channel's all about. So I'm not buying broken down exotic cars and being a goofball, wasting thousands and thousands of dollars trying to make you fake content. So I mean, it's entertaining. I watch those channels. They're funny, but just not realistic. It doesn't give. It's like watching Jersey Shore. It's not realistic. Might feel like it is for a minute. This should come out of here somehow. Oh, you know what? If I take this bracket off, 3 13mm bolts, it'll be a little easier. Let's do that. What's holding it? Nothing. Nothing, honey. Nothing is holding it. This is all anti-gravity type stuff. This bracket's going. I don't care about Newton's law at all. Get up in there, Milwaukee. That's one. This thing's coming out. This thing is coming out any second now. I just got one to go. Now this is another item that is not following the laws of physics, but when it does, I don't want it to be onto my head, so I'm gonna be a little more careful with this than I was with that little bracket. Look at that son of a gun, eh? There's where you can see the clutch is internal, so like you can't see moving parts outside, but it's separate inside because this does spin inside the clutch hub. It's only got a 2-wire connector at the back. And there's no variable displacement solenoids or anything like that, so it looks like one because they're sneaky. Yeah, I was a little concerned about that snapping off like that. I was trying to figure out how I was going to fix it. But that little harness comes with the new compressor, isn't that nice? Because I really want you to take this big one off up top, so that little harness comes with it. Nice. Things always go so smoothly. Nice new washers. Compressor didn't come with a single O-ring washer or anything. Back in the day, they used to come with a whole bag of them. I don't know what happened, but either maybe we found a place that has them cheaper. I don't know. I can only imagine. I got some out of my own personal stash. That way I don't have to walk all the way up front and ask about them. I got to put some PAG 46 in the compressor too. It looks like it comes dry. I tend to dump them out just to make sure there's the right amount of oil in them. I put 3 to 5 ounces of oil in most of them. If I'm not changing other parts, then I may put 6 ounces of oil. Depends on how much the total capacity of the system is. The compressor holds a lot of it, but every component has some oil in it. And there's specifications from every manufacturer. They'll tell you, put an ounce in this, an ounce and a half in that, 2 ounces in that. Because when you take a component out, you're taking the oil film that's in that component out of the system with it. And that's how the compressor's lubricated. The oil attaches to the freon or refrigerant. Someone corrected me, I called 134A freon, but it's refrigerant or whatever. But the oil attaches to that, and that's how it lubricates the compressor. So it's really critical. For each component, you put a certain amount of oil, 1 ounce, 2 ounces in each component as you replace it. Otherwise, the compressor runs dry, and a month later, you got a failed compressor, and you're going, I don't know what happened, we just worked on it. So, all right. Get over here, you rascal. 1. You guys just had a big video full of elbow, didn't you? I'm sorry about that. Now I'm holding you guys. I don't want you to be upset if I bump something or... But you can't get it from that way. Alright. You can get it from this way. How about that? Alright. I got pretty close. There it is. Oh, now you can see it. Let's see how tight the little 1/4 inch got them. Not too bad, but not tight enough. Not tight enough. I'm going to go ahead and get this top bolt started before I put the little bracket back on, just so the compressor's not flopping around unattached. Now it'll kind of help me hold the bracket up. That's my plan anyway. Anyone who hasn't seen any of my other videos, you know, we start all these bolts by hand. It takes way less time to start them by hand than it does to get out your taps and thread chasers and clean up the threads you messed up. Although a lot of times when I see bolts that have been cross-threaded, people tend to just leave them wherever they stopped. I couldn't imagine working on a car and leaving bolts cross-threaded halfway in and just letting it go like that, because I know the next person that works on it is going to be like, who the hell worked on this? They don't know what they're doing. And that bothers me. So it should. It's awful tricky to make that little access hole like that. I appreciate it. Oh, come on now. Get on there. I don't need no long reach ratchet. Piece of cake. Uh-oh, I left my socket. Someone just asked me today, did you ever get that socket off that bolt you left on there? Oh yeah. It's been a long time since I left the tool in a car. When I was a lot younger, and I used to work a lot faster and double check myself a little less, I left a couple tools in cars. But I learned pretty quick they're really expensive to buy again when you already bought it once. Especially because I used to buy all Snap-on tools with the occasional Mac or Matco. But I bought all my tools on the tool truck, so I never, well, that's not true. Most of them. Once in a while I'd go to Sears when Craftsman, when I was a younger man. I learned pretty quickly to keep all my tools organized. Even if they're not as clean as I'd like, they're organized. So I can look in my socket tray and see if there's a socket missing, or in my wrench tray and see if there's a wrench missing. I know I left something. And I put everything away before I pull a car out. Every time I do a job, the car's all done, I put all my tools away, wash my hands, and then I go road test the car. I don't road test the car until all my tools are put away. So, with rare exceptions when a customer's waiting and they're in a rush and that kind of thing. That way, I don't leave tools in cars anymore. Like when I was young. This is 16 on the tensioner. A little rusty. Try to get it as far up as I can. I am going to get an 7 I think, 7mm, my little ratchet. I rotate that compressor about 8 to 10 turns. Make sure all the oil's pumped out so it doesn't try to force it out the front seal. Now this is turning the compressor shaft inside, just not turning the pulley. Okay. You know what? That adjusted something. Is that a bad thing I just did? Okay. This is an adjustment of some kind. That's new to me. Shows you how much I know, Mr. Smarty Pants. I tried turning the compressor by this shaft, and the shaft went into the compressor clutch. Very strange. I took the belt off, I started turning it, it came back out and bottomed out in the top. So this is some form of adjustment. So don't turn it by that. I've never had that happen before. So I learned something new every day myself. Mr. Smarty Pants. That's what they called me in science class. That's actually not true at all. That is not true at all. Alright. That's back out where it's supposed to be, thank goodness. It started turning in, I'm like, that's not right. But turning the compressor, came back out. So this must be reverse thread and the clutch pulls it towards it. So as it wears or something, it's mechanically engaging and disengaging inside, I suppose. Very strange. But it was not turning on the old compressor when the compressor was on. But it turns now with the belt off. When I turn the clutch, it turns with it. Let's see if we can get this condenser tonight. That's the next phase of the operation. That's not right. It says the cooler lines go into the top and the two AC lines are at the top and the bottom. Well, this one has some makeshift tubes for the cooler lines and the AC goes to one block. Okay, wrong condenser. Change of plans. This Audi's got a lot of toe out. Looking for turn entry-level steering. That's what he's doing. Looks like he bent something. And he put the space saver on and shredded it trying to drive it around, and it finally let go. We gotta look at that tomorrow. Suspension's broken from hitting something. She ordered the right condenser for this. Well, let me show you what happened with her Jeep. They released a Kraken on Katie's Jeep. Paul's kind of fixing it, fixing some stuff. They stripped the threads on the valve cover on one side that holds the engine cover on. Broken electrical connector, no power steering fluid. They topped the power steering fluid up. Obviously the ground's not down on the post all the way. A lot of little things. That's the connector they left off. Oh, butterfingers. They left this connector off right here for the fuel pressure sensor. That's what set the code on our way home. That's a bummer. They must have had a discount on silicone too, because it looks like they siliconed a lot of stuff. But that's alright. Runs good though. Now that everything's plugged in. Oh, look at this. Oh, that's a bummer. That's broken.
And she said they scratched the top of it. They laid the hood back on the windshield filler.
Oh, yeah, you're supposed to put a fender cover on there to do that. Most Jeeps aren't so pretty, so they didn't think she'd care, but they were wrong. That's a bummer. Release the Kraken. Bill hooked up the heads to do the alignment on this Dodge for the body shop. It's got the cop bumper on it. There was so much toe out in the front. It had like 4 degrees of toe out. It had the warning screen up. So I said, that's what the machine should say. Oh, the other off. Pull those off too, what do you say? They will need to be removed it. I get them cooler lines out of there. 2 13s for the AC hoses and 2 10s at the bottom, and it pulls out of slots on the top. Let's see if this will work on the bottom like it did on the top. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ah, it doesn't quite work. It doesn't have the oomph on the bottom. The top one popped off just by spinning it and dropping it onto the head of the bolt, but I don't really have the leverage down there, so I'll have to use the old gear ratchet, or the old mountain ratchet, or the old extended reach wrench, what do you want to call it. I'm going to go the other direction, break this loose with the long torque of the long wrench. Ooh, that's why I wouldn't do it, it's tight. And I do not want to skin my knuckles on the condenser, so we'll see what happens. Woo. You guys might have to take a back seat for a second. I wonder if I can go through the hole in the bumper here and just get enough throw just to break this loose. Hey, it works. Using a little slot in the bumper. Oh, I feel tricky today now. I need a raise. I need a raise. This is one of the things that, this is a regular reach ratchet. A lot of people, and I bought the extended reach one. I just don't get out of my box that much because it's another $100. So I try to only use it if I absolutely have to. And honestly, I'm finding there's not many occasions where I absolutely have to use it. I usually can find a way with this or use an extension or something like that. Like every transmission cooler line, the way I do them, instead of using those goofy tools. And I have the tools, but I find that I end up fighting with them for a long time and getting aggravated, and they don't want to cooperate. So the new condenser is going to come with these clips anyway. GM also says they're not reusable. I guess they're torque to yield clips or something. I just pop them out of the way. If I have to, I push them back in. If the new one didn't come with them or something, I just push them back in. But now I can just pop those hoses out of there and no big deal. At least that's the theory. The problem is it's bolted on a bracket on the back of the radiator, so it makes it so they don't want to move. So I'll have to loosen this 10mm down here so that I have some wiggle room to move them out. Plus, this way I don't risk breaking a plastic radiator tank or whatever this is bolted into. I'm assuming there's like a molded boss on the radiator. Pretty long bolt. Now this will give me some wiggle room, nothing will break. There you go, they're out. Now it should just be 2 10s at the bottom, one on each side, and it should lift out. That's not good. It's not supposed to do that. Maybe that's why the compressor went bad. Couldn't get rid of heat. That is no bueno. But that's gonna do it for today, guys. Condenser won't be here for this until tomorrow. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Hope you got something from it. Maybe enough to torque that like button above the screen. See you guys in the next video. You're awesome.